welcome back to Daybreak Africa. I am Joshua Atolagbe. On today's discussion, we'll be talking about Nigeria economy, evaluating federal government policy on 2025. And in the studio, we'll be having an economist, Mr. Alex, will be joining us on a telephone conversation. He's already on with us.
Good morning, Alex.
Good morning, everyone. How are we doing?
We're doing fine. Thank you for joining us on the program today.
Thank you. Compliment of the season, everybody.
Yeah, same to you. Anyways, diving into the discourse proper. Now we're talking about Nigeria's economic, plans for 2025. I'd like you to just give us a little bit of a hint, some of those policies that interest you when it comes to plans for 2025.
Okay. Before I even jump into 25, I think 2025. Sorry. Let's just look at what happened this year, 2024. If we look at 2024, it was a great economic season. And from 2023, I had predicted that we will have a boost in economic growth, at least by 1%, and it would not reflect in the ordinary lives of any citizen. And I had said that fuel will be sold at about 1,900 to 1,000 as at 2023 because of the policies that were put in place before the emergence of 2024. Now, my predictions actually surfaced just some months into 2024. And I think a lot of people were literally clamoring against the economic hardship. People were saying the whole economy is too tough and all that. Now, while we are shouting and crying and doing all this, the federal government keep recording economic growth. Let's take a look at the financial sector. We were able to record over 1.27% economic growth in just first quarter of 2024, and currently there's a probability that we might be experiencing another 2.5% growth in 2025. So there are a lot of activities that happened this year that might not be so much big. Let me say something that so much interests the populace, right? But in that situation, yes, it interests the government because they had more money to share across state level, across local government level, and all that. Even within that region, in 2024, we discovered that the minimum wage was increased to about. It was increased by 70%, which is about by 100%, which is about 70,000 naira currently. And if we observe, some states are paying 80,000, some states are paying over 90,000, some states are paying 70,000 plus. So now, we might just say that is 2024 economic season a woe? No, of course not. We experience shifts in in our economic dealings. That it did not reflect in average Nigerians did not mean that the economy did not shift, and did not mean that we did not record a positive shift. If we discover that, okay, maybe the fuel, cost of transportation and all that, yes, that's because the government has been subsidizing before now over $22 billion every year on subsidy, on petrol subsidy. So that was no longer happening, and that's why we had to bear the burden. Now, this is not to give accolades to the cost of things currently, but however, there is a positive economic shift in the country. Again, it's not reflecting in average Nigerians because we are all struggling, but that does not mean that the country was stagnant. And let's also look at a place of foreign direct investment. We didn't do so well, especially in states. Now, just 3 or 4 states recorded foreign direct investments in Nigeria. Now, among 36 states in Nigeria, that's a very bad omen for us. So it simply means that we didn't do well when it comes to foreign direct investment. And let's also look at numbers of companies that pulled out of Nigeria. We record that a group number of companies actually left Nigeria.
Sure.
Over 15 companies, 14 companies left Nigeria. So now that is, and if you look at the general terms, the all use will be that the economy is in shambles. The economy is not working. Now, if the economy is not working, how do we have a shift in our economy? I mean, a positive shift. So what really happened is our exchange rates. Nigeria, the Naira in 2024 experienced an exchange rate up to 2,000 Naira against $1. So which is not a very good one. And we also experienced issues with NPC, that is from the central bank. And we discovered that the interest from the central bank rose to about 30%. And we discovered that companies in Nigeria, including Daku himself was clamoring that this is too much, that we cannot experience an interest of over 30% when they have staffs to pay, when they have things to do and all that. So yes, we have our ups and downs in 2024, but the issue is, have we been able to resolve this up and down in 2024, and is it going to reflect in 2025? I think those are a few predictions that we just want to put in place first. Now, diving down to also 2024, we also discovered that the budget that ran through 2024 was just about 5 trillion Naira. And in dollars, that was about 32 to 33 billion dollars. You get? Now, that is where I have my fear in 2025. We have a budget of 2025 to be about 47 trillion Naira, which is a total budget of $28 billion as to $27 trillion in 2024, which is a total budget of about 32 to 33 billion dollars. So our exchange rate is completely weak. And the factors we are pulling into 2025, can we achieve it with this budget? And my fear is no. Now, it's not the volume of the money in Naira, it's how far it is with other currencies, and we are not doing well in that region. And we are going to really talk about the devaluation of the Naira maybe in the course of this conversation. But a whole lot has happened in 2024. And we are carrying over some economic issues to 2025 that were not properly resolved in 2024. So that is first my summary in 2024. Now let's go down to 2025 according to your question, which is the economic outlook of 2025.
Yeah.
Now, if we look at few policies that the federal government has brought up, we will discover that, okay, the federal government will say that maybe they mean well for Nigeria and the populace. Let's take a quick look at the credit corp, the whole SME initiative that they are coming up with, and a whole lot of things that the federal government a whole lot of policies that the federal government are looking forward to. Now, but does that translate to economic progress in 2025? With the kind of budget we are looking at. That is one thing I want us to really discuss. But let's look at the 2025 budget quickly. The 2025 budget of about 47.5 trillion did not really help us. Or maybe there are possibility that it will lead to whatever we want, whatever we will achieve in 2025. But looking at it, the amounts sound big in Naira, but way too small in dollars. So those are the few things. But the 2025 budget actually have some good qualities in it. And some of these qualities, if we even check it out, these qualities include security. And in the budget, we discover that the security is about 4.91 trillion. And it's I think that is the highest over time since I've been observing the budget for the past 10, 15 years now. Security has never had such amount of budget, about 4.91 trillion. So I think in 2025, we are looking more into a secured Nigeria where businesses can thrive. So we hope that the budget is able to achieve what it's set to achieve. Then a quick look at infrastructure. Infrastructure is about 4.06 trillion. So infrastructure of about 4.06 trillion is also a good one. But if we equate it to other factors or the other budgets, we discover that, okay, it's just slightly higher than previous budget. So, but that we have infrastructure in mind is a good one, which happens to do with road constructions and all that. So I think that's a good one. So we have health to be about 2.48 trillion. Now, having health to be about 2.48 trillion is not even the issue. It's, I think, one of the highest so far. Last year, we were looking about 221 billion naira. So for now, we are having health to be about 2.48 trillion, which is a total of about, let's say, 8 to 9% of the entire budget. So I think that's a good one for me. It's a good one, seriously. So, and if this budget is able to achieve what it intends to achieve at the national level, I think Nigeria will also be in a prospect for growth, just as we experienced this year. The last one, which I also want to touch, will be education. Education has been the highest over time throughout 15 years that I've been monitoring Nigerian budgets. Education this year alone is about 3.52 trillion, and that's the best we have ever had. But now the issue is, how are these things going to translate into into something that we are not just seeing on paper, but something that is handy, something that we can witness, and something that we can testify for, rather than testify against. You get? Now, if we still look at 2024, we will also discover that the student loan scheme is also there, that has been thriving. Students have been giving testimonies that some of this that they've received, those that applied have received loans, student loans, and they are doing fine with their educations anyway. But now let's go away from the tertiary institutions, which I somewhat have my own bias. What happens to the ordinary Nigerians who are still in primary school, who are just coming up, who needs at least the first primary education and cannot go to school? So what are we looking in that direction? And I think I would also say that not just the federal government, but the state government should take a leaf from the Alex Oti, who happens to be the governor of Imo now, Alex Oti, right? Yeah. So he made primary and secondary school education compulsory and free. You get, in his state. So if governors can look into that region and pick a leaf from that, I think we will not have uneducated children. If we look at education in Nigeria, over the highest number of uneducated children in Nigeria is from the northern part of Nigeria, yes. Which over 120, I think over 120 million children out of school. Now, 120 million children out of school, northern Nigeria carries about 60 to 70% of that amount. So it's not good enough, and I think education should be somewhat prioritized in northern Nigeria also. Okay. While the governors are clamoring for a restructuring in tax reform and all that, I think they should also direct that energy into education, and that will work better for them rather than cry over spilled milk. So I think I'll just stop here and
okay. Are there some points in the budget that you are not for, that you think should have been maybe they should have taken another direction towards?
Okay, again, for every budget, we always have capital expenditure and recurrent expenditure. And for me, the spoons, the knife, and the tables, furnitures, and cars they are buying every year, with our budget, is not necessary. This guy said something. Sorry, I'm using the word guy. He's still a young boy. So that is Nasir El-Rufai's son. said that cars doesn't go bad. Spoons and fork doesn't go bad. Spoons and fork doesn't go bad. In fact, if you buy a car, if you are that wealthy that you bought a car today, you still need a period of 4 to 5 years to even think of changing the car. So why is it that we keep buying cars every year with our budget? Why is it that we keep changing furniture every year with our budget? Now, it's almost obvious that a whole lot of us does not even know what the budget should do or what it should stand for. If you go deeper into the budget, some parastatals are just trying to fill up space because they want to amass more funds into their covens. Let's look at the Ministry of Information, for instance, and orientation. If we look at the budget, we'll just discover that it's more salaries and other irrelevant expenditures. Just irrelevant expenditures.
What do you mean by irrelevant expenditures? Can you state some of them?
Aside from salaries, what happens to the furnitures we are changing? Why? Why are we changing furnitures? Who are we getting cars for? A whole lot of these things just need re-evaluation. We just need a complete re-evaluation of our budgets, and it should be problem-centered, not pocket-centered. And that is what we are facing currently in Nigeria. And that is my problem with the budget. And that is my fear, that 2025 budget might not just achieve whatever it is set to achieve, because while we are looking at solving problems, a chunk of the budget is just on recurrent expenditures that are not really necessary.
Yeah, all right, you've talked about the furniture and other likes in the budget. Let's look into the debt servicing. Talked about almost about 15 trillion on debt servicing. Do you think it's realistic to achieve the inflation rate from 34% to 15%, talking about the debt servicing?
Okay, I would not want us to bring in debt servicing and inflation in one situation, but however, let me talk about debt servicing quickly. Nigeria, we are in a debt of over 120 trillion. Yeah, over 120 trillion, because we keep borrowing, and it's a big one on us. I remember in 2023 we were just around 70 to 80 trillion, but currently I think we're about 120 trillion, if not more. Now, with 15 trillion debt servicing, that's a good one. But one problem, now I don't have problem with borrowing. I repeat this, I don't have issues with borrowing. And I think that's one thing the 2025 budget tried to achieve, or is trying to achieve, such that every borrowing is tied to a project that can generate as much revenue to pay up that debt. And that is one thing that we should always look out for. You don't borrow for recurrent expenditure, you borrow for capital expenditure. And I want to also commend the DMO, that is the Debt Management Office, for their work so far. However, we've not been seeing how they've been managing our debts and all that. We are just seeing figures and seeing numbers and more on statistics and all that. We don't need that. We need them to come out and advise the government on how they go about borrowing. You understand? It's not about just allowing the government to go out and borrow. Tell us the implications of these debts. Tell us how it's affecting us. Tell us the issues that are within this, the coffers of these debts we are getting ourselves into. You understand? So I think that should work more. And again, borrowing is not bad if it's for capital expenditure. But once it's for recurrent expenditure, then it's a problem. You don't borrow money to pay salaries. That's a problem. You don't borrow money to send children to school. That's a problem. Capital expenditure more on infrastructure and other aspects. Now, another thing is, okay, I'll talk about the revenue generation in a bit, but let me also talk about the inflation. Inflation currently is over 30%, and cutting down inflation will be something that is going to be a great deal. Now, the Nigeria of today, we have a lot to do when it comes to inflation, and it has just 40% to do with federal government and 60% to do with individuals. In the Western world, when it's festive season, what I've discovered is if a plate of rice, for instance, or a Congo of rice is for $5, festive period, they cut it down to as low as $3 so that everyone can afford. But in Nigeria, it's not so. If a bag of rice is 25,000 naira, once it's festive period, it's now 40,000. So the level of foolishness most of us as citizens of Nigeria get ourselves involved into, it's not even functional, it's not working. We are just in a lifetime extortion. And the issue is, what has the federal government got to do with this? What policies are the federal government looking at? Do you understand? Let's look at housing, for instance. A 2-bedroom flat in Nigeria, in certain places in Nigeria, especially Abuja, is over 5 million, 6 million naira. That is in rent. When you are buying for 60 million. A structure that is sitting on just 250 square meter, you are buying for over 60 million naira. So the level of inflation in Nigeria, yes, more that the federal government has some things to do. I feel we, the citizens of Nigeria, need to sit ourselves down. Maybe there should be a citizen forum of Nigeria where we sit down and talk senses to ourselves. You think the federal government is the problem why Nigeria is not functioning. But when we look deep, we are a problem. Big problem. Because you wonder why the level of inflation is up to this level.
Well,
in this year alone, I remember when people could not buy tomatoes.
That's true.
You couldn't buy pepper. You get it?
Yeah.
This festive period, onion was a big sell in the market.
It still is.
Nobody could afford it. You understand? So it's a problem. And the question is, why are we having that issue? And a whole lot of them will fall back to maybe cost of transportation, this and that. But why is cost of transportation not an issue 2 or 3 months ago? Even a month ago, why is it not an issue?
I actually had a conversation with someone recently pertaining this particular issue, and the person kept blaming the federal government, and he gave me a reason why. Talking about this price fluctuation and increased price of commodities in the markets, he attributed to the fact that we do not have a standard regulatory body who would actually take charge of these kind of situations in Nigeria. Do you think that is also a contributory factor as well to these inflation issues?
We don't have a standard what?
Regulatory body when it comes to pricing in Nigeria.
That's why I said that if we are looking for a regulatory body under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, we will not get it.
Is there a reason for that?
Because our president believes in free markets.
Okay, before you expatiate, please, let's go for a very short break. We're out of time for the first segment of the discussion. When we get back, we'll delve more into what you're talking about. Well, this is the point where we'll go off for business. Pardon me. This point where we go off for Go Start, a segment designed to give you hints on business ideas wherever you find yourself. So do enjoy that segment. When we're back, we'll be talking more about this Nigerian policy in 2025. That will be in the second segment. So do stay tuned.
Welcome back to Daybreak Africa, and that was Go Start. I believe you've learned 1 or 2 lessons from that. It's never too late to start a business, especially in this state of Nigeria economy. One business cannot make it, or 2 or more businesses should do. All right, we are still on discussion of the day, talking about the federal government plans on Nigerian towards the 2025 budget. And we are still on the telephone conversation with Mr. Alex, an economist.
Alex, are you with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
I'm here.
Before we went off for the segment Go Start, we asked the question. We asked the reason why you said that in this administration we cannot get a regulatory body to control the price in the market. Can you expatiate, please?
All right. Just a few days ago, the president held a press conference, and in his words, he said he believes in free market, where the forces of demand and supply determines the course or the prospects of the market. So if forces of demand and supply is supposed to determine the running of a market, then you should not expect that there will be a system that will be created by the federal government that will regulate price or anything. So where we are having that issue right now is we must now learn to tell ourselves the truth and become human in our thoughts and in our approach towards so many things. A whole lot of buyers a whole lot of sellers in Nigeria are looking towards extortion. For Christ's sake, you're getting a house, a 5-bedroom duplex in Lagos, and you are asked to pay over $2.2 million. And I'm looking at a house in the United States worth $2.2 million. And I'm seeing the acres of land. But in Lagos, you are tying me to just 400 square meter. So we are having issues with, how do I place it now? We are having issues with greed. And governments cannot solve the problem of greed. However, the implementation of the tax reform bill is supposed to help cut down inflation at least by 2%. At least by 2%. The implementation of that bill is supposed to help us cut down inflation at least by 2%. But the question is, from over 38%, over 40% to maybe 38%, is that enough level of inflation? And if the federal government is looking at cutting down inflation, let's say by maybe 10% or 20%, I don't think that is doable in 2025. It's over ambitious for me.
So you don't see the possibility at all?
Now, I believe inflation can come down, but that inflation will go down by over 40% in a single year. It doesn't work that way.
Okay.
My study in economics and my practice as an economist has not told me that you can cut down inflation by almost 40% in a running year. Except you don't believe in free markets, where you have the forces of demand and supply determining the prices of goods and services in the country, and where you have stable currency. Nigerian currency is not stable. What is our target? What are we looking at? We keep defending the naira every day. So we are having issues with a policy that might necessarily not work. So if we are going to cut down inflation next year, I'm hoping that inflation will go down by at least 4 to 5% next year. But it's going to go down as low as 40%. I doubt it. If it works, then I think kudos to President Tinubu and his economic policies. But for me as an economist, I would not be moved around or tossed around by just that level of promises. It won't work.
Well, earlier you made mention at the beginning of the program, you made mention of the fact that Nigeria's economy took a shift, more like in a positive light, due to the policy that was implemented 2023 by the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that's in regards to the removal of fuel subsidy. However, now you're mentioning the fact that we also have the issue of inflation, which could another factor contributing to this is the issue of price hike, the fact that there is no regulation of price and anybody can sell at any price. Now, you also know the fact that Nigerians, that's the common man, the citizens of the country, have not, witnessed or, will I say, they've not gotten any form of, will I say, support or anything that's going to cushion the effect of this fuel subsidy. More like every day, the common man is suffering and the suffering keeps coming, even if the economy is going to get better. What are some of these things you feel the federal government is going to do with these current policies that are going to, like say, make things much more easier for the citizens?
Angela, let me answer this by asking you a question. Before now, what is the common man doing?
Surviving.
Well, the common man has been surviving the way he can.
So if the common man has been surviving, I think the common man will keep surviving. See, the thing is, I was in a conversation with somebody recently, and I said this thing blatantly, and I said that we all clamor that the common man is struggling and trying to survive. The first question I want to ask is the common man working? If yes, there's an increase in minimum wage, so it should have affected the common man's earning.
Well, not every state has actually implemented that.
If no, then the common man should get a job.
Okay, with the issue of insecurities, for example, affecting farmers, how do you think that can be handled?
Now, we already said a few things about the budget for next year, with the plan of over 4 trillion on security.
Okay.
So that's a good one on us.
Don't forget the fact that you mentioned that implementation could also be a problem. So, from what you're saying now is that seeing the budget automatically means that insecurity is going to be curbed in 2025.
Now, can we say that the level of insecurity in Nigeria this year went down by, let's say, 15%, if not more? Gone are those days where we have bomb blasts. What was prevalent this year was more of kidnappings and ransom, right?
Yeah, true.
And that was curbed, especially in Abuja, where there was a state of emergency declared again. I think that really worked a bit, at least by, let's say, 40%. You understand?
Yeah.
Now, if we discovered by our policing system, there are new vans and new cars that have been given to them, where your police don't have to stop at the road. Your car have to be properly registered, and there's a tracking device in the police vehicle that can track wherever you are, as long as they can capture your plate number.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things going on to enhance our level of security in Nigeria. Now, we are not there yet. However, we are getting there. Now, I'm saying that as compared to 2023, 2024 level of insecurity was way lower than 2023. Now, if 2025 comes, we believe that it should be way lower than 2024.
Okay.
Again, we are not the federal government to implement these policies, right?
Yeah.
So, please, if there are proper implementation of these policies, at least we should have, let's say, 0 to about 25% insecurity level. You get?
Yeah.
In 2025. Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
So, implementation also enhance our level of security.
Okay.
However, there are implementations in 2024 that we can record. You understand? There are implementations in 2024 that we can record, that we can hold on, that we can testify for. You understand? So that is one thing. Now, what I'm saying is, for the common man, he should either get a job, go to the farm, get something doing. You can't be idle and expect the federal government to keep giving you money. It doesn't happen in any country. More than I'm against the distribution of funds by the federal government, that is conditional transfer of funds, which is not necessary. This conditional transfer of funds, we don't have a proper data for them. We will just come on social space and the federal government will just announce we're able to transfer 50 billion to 150 million households. How is that possible? Where are the statistics? Where are the data? You understand?
Yeah.
And the 150 million households, not even one is coming to say, okay, I received a conditional transfer. So enough of this conditional transfer, because every time we clamor for the common man, what they're always asking for is a conditional transfer. If 50 billion is pushed into the economy, used to develop a particular aspect of the economy, a lot of the common men will get a job. Instead of conditional transfer of 10,000 naira, it doesn't help. And that is what I'm seriously clamoring for. No need for any conditional transfer. There is no need for it. If a common man is struggling, he should get a job. He should go to the farm. He should learn his skill. So enough of this economic sabotage with the common man. The country might not be, yes, we might not be enjoying the physicality of what we are supposed to. However, we should also understand that the economy is placed on a trajectory and is moving.
Okay.
All right, still on the common man you've mentioned the other time. Every average Nigerian believes that if there's going to be a disbursement of money, that money is only secluded to a particular group of people, not for the masses. But now talking about a common man getting job, getting employment, is there any provision for employment now towards the 2025 budget?
Okay, let me say, hope you are not oblivious of certain situations that have been happening in the country with the factors that I will point out. The FIROS, that is the Federal Inland Revenue Services, currently brought out an employment opportunity. NNPC did that, and a whole lot of federal government parastatals did that. And NNPC is hoping to employ over 20 to 30,000 people. FIRS is hoping to employ same number of people. You understand?
Yes.
We have the security system with the police hoping to recruit more and soldiers hoping to recruit more. So we have people we have starters that are willing to admit people when it comes to employment, right? And we also have private organizations that are also willing to employ. Now, these are things that have been laid out by the federal government. And again, I'm this person that doesn't really believe the federal government needs to employ as much as possible. It's not the job of the federal government to employ people. The job of the federal government is to simply set policies that create a working environment for private individuals. So private individuals are supposed to do more of the employment than the federal government. So in Nigeria, when we are clamoring for unemployment, we run to the federal government. So where we are supposed to hold the federal government responsible in terms of policies and creation of policies and ensuring a working environment, we don't hold them responsible. We are saying the federal government are not employing. So because of the federal government is not employing, the federal government has created more than 1,000 parastatals that are not functioning, but are just siphoning funds from the coffers of the government. We have a parastatal under research, agricultural research and all that. Till date, what research has that parastatal brought up? But they keep employing. Under research, nothing. We've not seen any research under agriculture. Maybe improved seedlings from them or anything. Nothing. Nothing. So the federal government keep creating parastatals, keep creating ministries that are not functioning. Just this year, earlier this year, we started looking at merging some organizations, some ministries, and doing away with some ministries. And the first thing Nigerians will clamor for is some people will lose their job. But this ministry is not functioning. They are just bringing in budget in billions and they are not delivering in any form. So I feel Nigeria needs to really understand governance different from business, because we want our federal government to get into business of employing people rather than get into the business of governance. And that's a problem. It's a problem.
Well, let's go towards the implementation of the credit system in Nigeria. What do you have to say about it?
All right, the credit call in Nigeria is a good one, and I want to commend the presidency for that initiative. However, we've seen the implementation of the student loan. I don't want to agree with the populists or that are jumping on the fact that it's scam and it's not functioning. We've seen students sending screenshots of their monthly stipend sent to their accounts. Yeah, we've seen students saying that their school fees have been paid by the federal government. So we've seen a whole lot of initiative by the federal government, and it's completely what we hope for, and I think it's functioning just as we hope it should function. However, we are looking towards expansion. So what is the expansion? What are those? How many people do we intend to induct into this system by next year? So those are the few things the federal government should look into. Now, when it comes to the other side of it, the credit system, which happens to do with spending so much on maybe items. For instance, if you don't have up to 20 million, 30 million, 40 million, you can't own a car in Nigeria, or you can't even own a house. You get? So the Nigerian system is that rigid that you have to pay all at once to own it. And it's given a situation where we are all struggling. So this is where we all say that the common man is struggling. So the credit system will help the common man to understand that you don't need to struggle anymore. So this is how it functions. For the credit system, that has to do with dealing with cars. As long as you are 21 years of age and you earn 150,000 naira monthly, you can own a car from any manufacturers in Nigeria, Innocent, and others.
Yeah.
You understand?
Yeah.
As long as you are 21 years of age and you earn 150,000 monthly, you can own a car in Nigeria, and as long as you have good credit system.
Okay.
So once you're able to do that, then you will know that, okay, I can own a car. without breaking the bank. And this happens to do with just a single digit interest within whatever years they want to spread the payments. So I feel it's a good one for us. Now the question we should ask within that system should be that, is Nigeria ready for this? Is Nigeria really ready for this? Because we have over 150 to 200 million cars that exist currently in Nigeria, that apply the Nigerian road every day, every month, or throughout the year. Over 150 to 200 million cars. And these cars all depend on our fuel. You understand?
Yeah.
So are we saying that these cars we are getting using the credit system, are they CNG motors? Are the road okay enough for us to say that, okay, we can have such numbers of vehicles on the road? Because once you open this system, a whole lot of Nigerians will jump on it. So do we have enough capacity with our infrastructure to handle this credit system? So the question should be that, is Nigeria currently prepared for this thing? And my answer is, we are just 40% ready for this. A whole lot of Nigerian youths do not have good credit system. A whole lot. We don't have good credit system. We don't have good credit record, sorry. A whole lot of Nigerian youths. And it's a big problem. So, now how do we intend to do this? And with these unstable jobs, you are working in the bank today and the bank is laying off staffs tomorrow. So how do you intend to get this done? So those are factors we need to really consider. You understand? And once that is done, then fine. I feel we are ready. But until then, I think we are just 40% ready. But it's a good policy if it comes into play. But however, we are just 40% ready for this policy.
Do you, what do you think of the sustainable implementation process? Do you think is something that is going to last?
Yeah, it's going to, the sustainability, the fact that we are patronizing our own locally made cars tends to give me that assurance for sustainability, and tends to give me that assurance for an economic viable state. You get?
Yes.
So because we are patronizing our own brands and all that. And that is my issues with Nigeria over time. I've said this and I will say it again. We have ministers that are necessarily not doing their job. Nigeria is over 230 million in population. Nigeria is the highest patronizers of both Apple products and Toyota products. Toyota does not have a coupling plant in Nigeria. Neither does iPhone or Apple, or neither does Apple. So these products keep coming into Nigeria in terms of imports, where we can have a system developed for these people to come and have a coupling plant in Nigeria, thereby cutting down the excesses of importation. And we can just buy it directly and consider it as local products. But of course, we don't do that. So they produce over there and they sell it at whatever price they want to sell it to us and bring it, and we import it down to Nigeria. So we just have a system where we are not harnessing the strength of our population. And in that situation, we cannot have a viable economy.
Right.
Every country needs to learn to harness the power of their population, the strength of their population. And Nigeria is one. We are not doing that.
Hopefully we'll do that soon. Thank you so much for joining us on the program this morning.
All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, have a beautiful New Year celebration.
And you too.
And this is where we'll be wrapping up the discussion for today. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Daybreak Africa. But before we say our goodbyes, we'll be going for sports. And after that, we'll say goodbye. Stay tuned.